Hello, this is Shannon Flummerfelt for Flip Schools. Welcome to the Sustaining Improvement series. This series of videos is designed for faculty, and this is one of 3 in a series. What we're exploring in this series of videos is the idea that in a flipped classroom, you're going to be able to examine and re-examine your teaching practices and your pedagogy for teaching. And the idea is for you as a faculty member to be able to pull out what actually works best, and then to be able to sustain that in your classroom is what we're trying to help you accomplish here. And so to do that, I'm introducing you to a tool called the 5S, which is a 5-step process. In this video, we're going to examine steps 3 and 4. So if you're interested in seeing the full process and understanding the 5S more thoroughly, please listen to the other videos in this series. So let me just review again from the other videos about the 5S. What actually is it? Well, the 5S is just a nice tool because what it does is it gives you just a visual management tool, or perhaps a map. You might think about it as a map that helps you as a faculty member to work either, within your own practice or collectively with other faculty members who either teach in your grade level or subject area, or maybe there are just faculty in the region and so on who you confer with, or even through your professional associations. But this 5S tool helps you to collectively work together if you want to do it that way, so that you are able to, first of all, develop ideas and maintain them through improvement. And there are 5 steps to the 5S. Sorting and setting, which are the first 2 steps presented in another video, shining and standardizing, which are presented in this video, and then sustaining, which is the last step presented in another video in this series. So let's just, for instance, say that you're responsible for mathematics instruction. And how would you figure out in mathematics, of all the things that have come and gone in mathematics instruction, all the ideas and the practices and the curriculum and so on, how do you figure out, what you want to actually keep and use and sustain as being best practice in your classroom? And so what we're going to do is go through this example here, again, focusing on the 3rd and 4th steps of the 5S process. So in order to understand these steps 3 and 4, shining and standardizing, what you've done here is you've previously gone through some thinking on your own or collectively with your colleagues that helps you to sort out and to set into categories what's happening in mathematics curriculum. So for instance, we have this list here of 9 practices that are have been decided by you or your colleagues. This is what really matters in mathematics instruction. Now again, I'm not saying these are the 9 best. These are questions that you have to figure out in your school, in your classroom, in your setting. What really does matter in mathematics instruction for me? And also consider against what research is telling us and so on, and try to come up with this list. So there's this list of 9, and from the other video we went through this process here of setting and sorting these out first and then setting them into categories. And so what we figured out is that in terms of setting these into categories, that we had one item on this list that really was high priority, and that was strategy number 2. The idea that there needs to be timely assessment and intervention in regard to mathematics instruction. And then we also had some items that didn't really need improvement. They were pretty much working fine, and then some that are also going to need some improvement. And so those are all sort out and set out here. Now what we want to try to do is take that high priority item and really tackle it and figure out what is happening here. Because we know that in order to solve these problems, we have to get at where some of the weaknesses are in the instruction. So as we move through sorting and setting and now shining, what we're trying to do is focus on how do we bring forth timely assessment and intervention. Well, what we do here is we begin to look at what we've got in place and see, where are things not timely? Where is intervention not happening? And how can we go ahead and clean that process up in order to create improvements? Now, again, the whole process here of 5S is not designed to focus on people or blame people or pick on anyone. The idea is that we're trying to create a dynamic of learning together, of creating a process improvement that really helps everybody to be more effective. And in this case, if you want to just use this for your own instruction, that's fine. Or again, you can share it collectively with other people. So working now on the third step, shining, what does this mean? Well, what we're trying to do here is examine what's happened. And we've actually figured out that we need to improve what happens in our pre-qualifying RTI process, because what's happening is that students are getting recommended for, possibly qualifying for RTI, but they go through this cycle time of testing and retesting and so on. It ends up taking the student 20 weeks before we can even figure out if they're going to receive the RTI intervention. Well, 20 weeks is a long time. As you know, that's a semester worth of mathematics instruction that has gone by. So we sit down and we take a look at that. What can we do to improve this RTI qualifying process? And we figure out how to condense that down from 20 weeks to 5 weeks. And part of that is that we're allowing the introduction of student work that's being created in the mathematics classroom as a part of the formative assessment process, rather than having to administer a pull-out assessment, once and then twice and then maybe 3 times to try to figure out where the student fares. If we use that process along with student work, then within 5 weeks we can more quickly ascertain what's needed. And so what we're going to do is try this out and pilot this improvement, where we try to move from a 20-week to a 5-week pre-qualifying RTI process. So a part of shining is, let's just try it and pilot it. And when we pilot it, we're going to figure out, well, this works or this, doesn't work. And then you shine those elements up. You make small improvements and tweak it and so on until you get it to where it's pretty good. In other words, what we're trying to do with shining is to try to pilot best practice. And then once we've done a pilot and we've had a chance to work on that a little bit, we're ready to go ahead and move to the next step in the 5S cycle, and that's standardizing. So again, you see the same table here where there's been sorting, setting, shining, and now as we have gone ahead and piloted these improvements, what we're doing now is we're beginning to create a model of pre-qualifying RTI time that gets at this problem we have with timely assessment and intervention. And so what we'll do now is we're going to start to try to standardize this, because we fixed some things up in the pilot. Let's see how this works as a standardized process. So what we'll do in standardizing is we'll just add a step after piloting where we will document changes in how has the timeline changed for these at-risk students in terms of getting intervention, and what is the quality of the intervention, how is that being rolled out, and then what do we see in terms of improvement in student mathematics achievement. So standardizing is a part of trying to create data that will actually reinforce the decisions that you've been making here in terms of what needs to be changed. And when that begins to happen, it becomes more and more easy to understand why we need to engage in these practices, and easier to begin to standardize. So what happens here is that we go through this 5 steps of the 5S, and there's a sorting setting video, and now this one on shining and standardizing. There'll be one more on sustaining, and then there's also a couple other videos in this series. But as you worked in the flipped classroom environment, again, you have to have a way, some kind of a protocol to figure out, what am I actually going to be doing here in my classroom, and how can I work my way through sorting and setting, shining, and then standardizing what works in mathematics instruction. And then finally, once we get to that point where we've got data and it really supports what you think is going to be great, then you go ahead and sustain that. So I hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you want any more information, you can certainly go to the Flip Institute website at theflipinstitute.com. Thanks for listening.